few years ago, he developed sort of a tennis elbow. He was no longer able to lift the heavy cement blocks required in building buildings. So Pat and Nancy, their 4 kids, moved in with us because he lost his job. And we would talk to people and they would roll their eyes and act like, boy, you're really putting up with a lot, as though it was some kind of a hardship. But let me assure you it was no hardship. Since Pat moved in, I haven't mowed the lawn, I haven't raked the weeds, I haven't shoveled any snow. It was far from being a hardship. But it was much more than that. The whole family brought new life to our house. Life that is still there, but we're missing one person. And we all love Pat. The life will go on. And I just invite you all to come up and tell us stories about Pat.
Forgive me if I don't get through this too well, but my name is Teresa Zaruba, but my family knows me as Tish. I'm one of Patrick's nieces. I'm the second oldest niece on the Sawyer side. Let me start off by saying I have many fond memories of Pat growing up as a kid, but a few do stand out in my mind. I always remember those Thanksgiving get-togethers in Kokomo, where everyone sat down at this big, huge dining room table. But there was always this ruckus going on in the living room, which happened to be Dan and Pat, on top of one another, rolling around on the ground, bound and determined to beat up one another. I remember my eyes, big as saucers at the time, when finally Grandpa had enough, raised his voice, and he couldn't help but stop when that happened, but not Dan and Pat. WWF continued on. It was a few years later, once again, at a Sawyer holiday get-together, when Pat returned home from the Army on leave. It was like the prodigal son had returned. His family embraced him with hugs and kisses, and he genuinely returned all those sentiments back. I remember thinking how handsome he looked in those army fatigues. The memory that I remember the most were those close talks that Pat and I used to have. He came to live with us for a few summers in between college. And we would talk about what the future had in store for us. But Pat truly had a plan. There's this girl, Tish, and I think she's the one I'm going to marry. Being 15 and completely egocentric, I replied, really? Why? Well, the answer to that question was obviously clear when Nancy came to visit. She was smart, sweet in her quiet manner, and completely taken with Patrick. They were perfect for one another. I had the privilege of talking to Pat 2 years ago at a family reunion in Milwaukee. He, at that time, was thinking about going into nursing, and we talked about the different areas that interested him in the field. I regret not following up with him on that, only to find that he was just weeks away from fulfilling that dream. There are, in my opinion, 3 qualities that make up a great RN. Caring with a genuine heart, patience for all types of sensitivities, and mostly compassion. Pat exemplifies all these qualities. He would have made a phenomenal nurse. In closing, It was my 4-year-old daughter who said to me last week, "Mom, don't be sad. There's new bikes in heaven, and maybe he can even choose a pink one." I thought, oh, if only the solution were that easy and innocent. So Patrick, if you're on that pink bike right now, ride on and know you will never be forgotten. Love, Tish.
Hi, my name is Margie Fink. I'm Patrick's mother-in-law. The ones that, you make the jokes about. Anyway, I just wanted you to know that, as you know, Pat and Nancy moved in with us. And I wrote this out so I don't stumble. I want to read it to you, what I found with Pat. Pat and Nancy moved in with Jim and me so Pat would be able to finish his degree and pursue a degree in nursing, which was about to happen in a few weeks. It was wonderful to watch Nancy and Pat's relationship grow and how they encouraged each other with all the things they did. School, Nancy's website design, homeschooling, the children, and more. Pat seemed to find some time with Nancy to be alone, even in our chaotic house. Pat and I were early risers. After my walk, we would meet in the kitchen and exchange our morning greetings. Once in a while, he would beat me there, especially when he had a test or more school work to do. We did our routines, me unloading the dishwasher and making a cup of coffee. He would make the coffee his lunch and sometimes dinner when he was staying late. It was amazing how we never got in each other's way. I began to realize we had this dance. It sometimes seemed like a two-step and sometimes three. As we went about our early morning routines, we didn't say much unless there was something going on with home, politics, or religion. That Wednesday, as I came back from my walk, Pat was already near the garage, getting his bike ready to go. He always made sure his bike and self had the right safety gear. We didn't do our dance together that morning. Is that why everything went wrong? I asked these questions of why and how come. Should have, could have. There are no good answers. But I will continue to ask. Pat, I miss our dance, and especially seeing you and all of the things that you did for all of us. Life seems to have another plan, one that we didn't want to have. The dance is over, just when we were getting so good.
Hi, my name is Matt Mearsman, and my wife and I met Pat about 4 years ago. We owned a canoe and kayak rental, and he was starting to organize Paddle Fest, and he called us about getting some canoes, and eventually I got involved with Paddle Fest. And when I met Pat, I had hopes of becoming a paddler myself, becoming at least completing this race, this Paddle Fest race. And I asked Pat, what do you recommend for me? What should I do to get ready for this race? And he said, well, what's your training program like now? I said, well, I've been out on the river once or twice. He said, well, you got to get out there every day. You got to be out there every morning. I just couldn't believe it. Like, what, every day? Yeah, you got to get out there every day. So I decided to try it for a week, and after a week, I was hooked. And Pat saw that intensity, that fire in me that it created, and he got really excited about it. And in the beginning of our relationship, he was a lot like a coach to me, sort of offering me tools, suggestions, but also support that was always there. And one of the memories that stands out in my mind is the day that I finally beat my coach at a canoe race. And I was really excited about it. I was, on top of the world, but I was also real concerned about how he would handle it. I was like, oh man, what's he going to think about this? And like Pat often was, he was down on his own race. He had some critiques of his own race that he had done, but he was genuinely. The pride that I saw in him for what I had done was what stood out above everything else, and that to me showed the kind of person that he was. And I just think Pat was there to try and help everybody be their best, and although he may be gone in some way, he's living on in all of us that are trying to be our best, the help that he gave us. Thank you.
Matt is so good at speaking. And I do this for a living. I teach and I have to script myself, so bear with me. Nancy knows it's going to be a little bit long because all our conversations have always really been long. Between Pat and Nancy, I've saved almost 400 email messages. I read through all of them this past week. Some were very short one-liners like, shut up and stretch your shoulder, and you're a freak. Others were very long. From both of them, their messages were filled with humor, intelligence, warmth, sarcasm, frustration, doubt, sometimes anger, but above all, love and support. On August 2nd, 2004, Pat sent me an email that ended with, I'm still waiting for the light at the end of your stubbornness tunnel. I could have said the same to him. He yelled at me a lot. Get your head up, reach, get your arms up, plant the blade, twist your torso, stop leaning to the right, straighten your arms, timing, slow it down, pick it up, watch me. Why are you in the water? Just paddle, Harrington. One of my favorites said with a very irritated tone, are you even trying to steer straight? He called me a lot of names too. Slacker, vertically challenged, many varieties of wimp. Red when he was frustrated with me or I was frustrated with myself, and girly, which got him into a lot of trouble. I grew up in a neighborhood of all boys, and I wasn't into dolls or anything that I called foo-foo. Instead, I played rough and I just ran with the boys. My closest friends in college were guys, mostly from the rowing team, who were always making me prove I could keep up. So I responded to